What's up, guys? It is IRGT85 and we have a couple topics that I want to go over in today's video. A new discovery was made with the Nintendo Switch OLED model that has the rumor mill and some people's expectations going crazy, but I don't think it's quite as it seems with this, so I want to bring a different perspective to the situation. But first, I want to talk about the potential death of the Assassin's Creed franchise. So if this is your first time on the channel, be sure to hit that subscribe button, be sure to like and share the video, but without any further ado, let's talk about what's going on in the world of video games. So unbeknownst to a lot of people, I actually really enjoy the Assassin's Creed series, but I've definitely sort of fallen out of love with it. If you ask me like my top 25 games of all time, I would definitely put Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag on that list. I have played through that game multiple times. I absolutely love that game, and I think that was one of the high points for the Assassin's Creed franchise. But one thing with the Assassin's Creed games is they always seem to come out, like every year you get another Assassin's Creed game, and they never really deviate too much from the stock formula of these games. So a lot of people have sort of been burnt out by the Assassin's Creed games. Of course, the latest game, Assassin's Creed Valhalla, actually sold really well, though. It broke records for the Assassin's Creed franchise, and it seemed like a lot of people enjoyed that game. I haven't gotten around to picking it up. I'll probably pick it up when I can find it for like $20 or something like that. But it seems like there are some major changes coming to the Assassin's Creed franchise that I don't like these changes. And you know, it's that typical Ubisoft thing, that sort of Ubisoft thing we've been talking about with rumors of them going from, you know, AAA games to more, you know, games as a service sort of situation. And that seems to be what's happening with Assassin's Creed, because there's a new game coming out sometime in the future called Assassin's Creed Infinity, and it's essentially going to be a live service game. There's going to be multiple historical settings instead of focusing on just one setting like many of the Assassin's Creed games do, and it's going to be something that's continued to be built up over time with new content added into it. And it's just like, that's bizarre to me. Like, I understand what they're going for with this, but it's kind of like, you know, people like to buy these individual Assassin's Creed games based on the settings and based on the story to see if they're interesting. I don't think the problem is you need more historical settings with the Assassin's Creed games. I think the problem is you need to sort of expand upon the gameplay formula, you know, switch it up a little bit. It's been essentially the same sort of core experience since Assassin's Creed 1. You've added things into it, you've put in different locales, you've put in different characters, but essentially you're still doing the same sort of things over and over again. And I feel like that's where the improvements need to be made. That's where the expansion needs to be made. But instead, Ubisoft is going in a completely different direction and just making it a live service game that will be supported for, I'm sure, many years, you know, depending on the sales of this game. But I don't know how I feel about this. I think Assassin's Creed Infinity is going to be sort of a very do or die situation with Assassin's Creed. I don't think this is the direction that they should be going in. They should be looking, like I said, to expand upon the game, to add in different sorts of stuff, because I think that's what made Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag stand out from the other Assassin's Creed games, because it was so radically different in terms of what you could do with the whole ship and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, it looks like Assassin's Creed is going with that live service route, and that's just something we've heard Ubisoft talk about, that sort of shift away from the AAA games to the live service games, and it's a damn shame. Maybe it'll come out and it'll be a good game, but I'm definitely keeping my expectations in line with this. So what do you think about this? Are you surprised to see Assassin's Creed go this route, or did you sort of envision this happening? Let me know in the comment section down below. Still waiting on that Zevia sponsorship. Zevia, hit me up. And finally, a new discovery was made yesterday with the Nintendo Switch OLED model that has people going absolutely crazy. I took a nap yesterday. I woke up way too late at like 7 o'clock, and I started looking at my Twitter feed, and I see all these Nintendo Switch Pro videos, and I'm like, did I oversleep? Did I sleep for like a year? Did I sleep and go back in time? Why the hell are people talking about a Nintendo Switch Pro situation when the Nintendo Switch OLED was just announced? And I am not one to judge other people's videos. I'm not one to judge other people's content. Honestly, I don't care what you put out there. I don't care what videos you make. I live in my own little bubble of content. I just make things that I find interesting, and if people enjoy those videos, that's great. If they don't enjoy the videos, I'm sorry. It's just my opinions on different things going on in the world of video games. But I was definitely sort of scratching my head. I'm like, why the hell are we talking about a Nintendo Switch Pro? And so I sort of tried to find out the reasoning behind this and sort of the reasoning behind these videos actually coming out. And I think I found why these videos are stemming, and it's unfortunately not not quite what these other people are making it out to be. No disrespect to them. At the end of the day, it's just your opinion on the subject matter. But like I said, the Nintendo Switch OLED, we just learned about this situation a couple days ago. It's coming out on October 8th, right alongside of Metroid Dread. It has the 7-inch OLED screen like was talked about in Bloomberg, but of course it lacks the 4K stuff. Now, there is stuff sort of going on with the dock situation that we're not going to talk about in this video, but some people think that there might be something additional in that dock, which we won't know until we get our hands on the system. But even beyond that, this is sort of what is happening right now with this Nintendo Switch OLED, because like I said, a discovery was made, and this was actually put out there by Digital Foundry. So I'll have a link to their write-up on the Nintendo Switch OLED and where a lot of this information is stemming from and why there's a lot of questions coming from it. But I'm going to read this situation to you guys first, and then we'll sort of talk about it. So Digital Foundry said the following yesterday. So for Nintendo and indeed game developers, the Switch OLED model is very much business as usual, to the point where the platform holder is telling game makers that no new developmental kits are essential for making games, and there are no new technical requirements that require changing standard Nintendo Switch iconography in-game to accommodate the new model. On top of that, the games running on the Switch OLED have no idea they are running on anything other than a standard unit. Nintendo's developer documents reveal that there is no way for existing games to query the system to figure out whether or not they are running on Switch OLED or not. With that said, the firm does recognize the need for developers to test their games on the new screen. With that in mind, a new ADEV development model is being made available to coexist alongside the SDEV and EDEV versions. For reasons undisclosed by Nintendo, the machine ships with 8 GB of onboard memory, compared to the 6 GB in the other developmental models and the 4 GB of all retail units. So that's where all this speculation is really starting to stem from right now, that last sentence, that the ADEV is available with 8 GB as opposed to the other developer kits as the SDEV and the EDEV at 6 GB, and then of course the standard Nintendo Switch at 4 GB. Now, if you look at it from a mathematical side, I could see why people would be a bit confused by this, because a 4 GB retail system, which is what is available on the market right now, is half of the size of an 8 GB developmental kit. So people are like, well, if it's 8 gigs, then obviously developers will be able to do a lot more with that 8 gigs instead of the 4 gigs that it comes out on the marketplace with. The 6 gigs is already there, but obviously you can't utilize all 6 of those gigs if you're doing it on a 4 GB model. So why would Nintendo essentially double the onboard memory size of this new developmental kit if there wasn't something else in the pipeline? And I think there's a very easy explanation for this, because I've actually asked around and asked some developers, you know, sort of off the record, what they thought about this and what they thought that this could sort of lead into. And really what it comes down to is debugging, because when you're making a game, there are lots of bugs. And of course, those bugs will take up that onboard memory when you're testing out these games and when you're developing these games. So essentially what the 8 gigs allows you to do is basically make more errors and not have to go back and fix them immediately. As long as you know that those errors exist, you have more memory to work with, so these errors and these bugs, these potential game crashes, aren't hogging up all of the resources that with the onboard memory that you would be doing with a final complete version of the game. Nobody that I've talked to has said anything about this being any sort of indication of a new Switch model. Now, does that mean that there is no other Nintendo Switch model? A lot of people have been saying, well, 2022, Nintendo's going to talk about a Switch Pro, and it's like, well, maybe, but like, who cares at this point? You know, that's the main thing to me. It's like, who cares about 2022 right now when we have a new model that's coming out in 2021 with the Nintendo Switch OLED? Like, obviously, this is what Nintendo is focused on for right now. They're not going to talk about any sort of other model. People are saying that in the original Bloomberg report that Mochizuki mixed up the whole situation and that there are 2 individual models. The standard one that we're getting with the OLED, the 7-inch OLED screen, and that there'll be another system that comes out that also has a 7-inch OLED screen and the 4K stuff in the future for this. And it's just like, well, that's fine, but there's really no reason to talk about it right now, because with the information that we have, all we have right now is this Nintendo Switch OLED model. And of course, there's going to be people that tear this system down, that look at the innards of it. Maybe I'll like break mine in half because I'm an absolute idiot and don't know how to take apart anything, to sort of find, you know, any sort of little indications or little sort of clues of other Nintendo Switch models. But as of right now, I think the Nintendo Switch OLED is all we're going to hear about for at least a year. So is this ADEV dev kit that allows for 8 gigabytes of onboard memory, an indication of another Nintendo Switch model being made? I don't think so. Just based on what I've been told, based on the things that and the people that I've talked to about this situation, it's really just for game development, and it gives them more flexibility when they are developing their games as far as having to debug these games, because obviously these problems that pop up in games are going to be a very big thing. So I would just keep your expectations in line. If people want to make videos talking about this being a sort of indicator of a Nintendo Switch Pro, you know, be my guest. I don't care. Like I said, I live in my own little bubble. But as far as what the truth about the situation is, I'm leaning more towards my sort of philosophy than other people's philosophies. But hey, maybe Nintendo will be like, oh yeah, we're working on another system. It does 4K, 8K, 12K. And it's like, oh crap, it's the biggest thing ever. Like, I mean, maybe, but I'm not going to hold my breath on that. Alright, so those are just a few topics that I want to cover today on the channel. Be sure to let me know your feedback on all these situations in the comment section down below. Assassin's Creed, are you sad to see it go the live games as a service route? Because, I mean, I am. I think that absolutely sucks. And of course, this Nintendo Switch OLED discovery. Do you sort of see things my way, or am I completely wrong and this is an indicator of another Nintendo Switch model that's coming out very soon, even though that would make absolutely no sense? And as always, guys, thank you for checking out this video. I know a lot of you guys will have questions about what I thought about Tommy End, aka Aleister Black, aka Malachi Black's debut in AEW last night. Absolutely kicked ass. I popped so hard. I haven't like screamed at my TV like that in quite a while, at least in sort of like a happiness thing, because that dude is super talented. If you watch his Instagram, like he makes like these little mini horror movies based on the character of Tommy End / Malachi Black. So just absolutely fantastic stuff there. I'm really curious to see where he goes in AEW. And as always, guys, thank you for checking out this video. If you are new to the channel, subscribe, hit that like bell, notifications, all that sort of crap. And as always, I'll catch you guys on the next video. Later.